All the savings are gone. What is this? The message from my mother was pure panic. Sitting at the small desk tucked in the corner of my studio apartment, I glanced at the notification. The room wasn't spacious by any means, but this desk, this space, was my sanctuary. With a cup of drip coffee in hand, I quietly analyzed the situation. This was the place I built to live by my own rules. Without a moment's pause, my phone began to buzz violently with an incoming call from my father. When it switched to voicemail, an angry voice spilled out. Alyssa, pick up the phone right now. What did you do at the bank? Explain yourself. A few seconds later came a worried text from my younger sister, Sophia. Mom's screaming and crying. What's going on? I read all of them but didn't reply. Instead, I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a small key. Everything began on my 21st birthday. That was the day I went to the downtown headquarters of the bank to claim the ticket to my future. The one my grandfather had left for me. $550,000. With that money, I planned to fulfill my long-held dream, to develop a financial literacy app for young people. My business plan had been rewritten dozens of times until it was perfect. I remember pushing open the heavy revolving door of the bank, my chest swelling with anticipation. I had no idea that only a few hours later, I'd be plunged into the lowest point of my life. This is the record of my quiet battle, one I began alone, to reclaim the future that was stolen from me. A month earlier, on the morning of my 21st birthday, I woke up early and pulled a navy suit from the back of my closet, the one I'd barely ever worn. It was a gift from my mother for my college entrance ceremony. As I buttoned the jacket in front of the mirror, memories of my grandfather surfaced. He had been an engineer, the only one who truly understood my fascination with how things worked, how systems connected beneath the surface. Alyssa, you have a gift for reading the stories hidden behind numbers, he used to say. He'd show me old stock charts and teach me about the economy like it was a giant puzzle. That's why, when you turn 21, I'm leaving you a seed fund for your future. That seed fund was a trust worth $550,000. Both my parents knew about it, of course. But my grandfather's will clearly stated that the money belonged only to me. I slipped my business plan into my bag. Its title, Pocket Tutor. It was a financial education app designed to teach young people about money through a game-like experience. My sister Sophia often used the credit card which our parents gave her to buy trendy clothes and cosmetics, but she never once checking her balance at the end of the month. She meant no harm, but she had no idea where money came from, or how it moved. Watching her and so many of my peers struggle with student debt after graduation made me think, what if I could help people keep control of their lives so they wouldn't have to give up on their dreams because of money? That thought became the foundation of my business. I took the bus downtown, watching the city pass by outside the window. When I stepped off, the bank's main branch loomed ahead of me. Marble columns, gleaming brass doors. Taking a deep breath to steady my racing heart, I stepped toward the majestic revolving door that led to my future. Good morning. I have a 10 a.m. appointment with Mr. Ford in the Asset Management Department. My name is Alyssa Baker. After giving my name at the reception, I was led to a quiet private room. I'd made the appointment myself a week earlier, explaining that I wanted to discuss my grandfather's trust on my 21st birthday. After a short wait, a middle-aged man who introduced himself as Mr. Ford entered the room with a thick file in his hands. His expression was tense. Miss Alyssa Baker, correct? I've prepared the documents regarding your grandfather Robert's trust as discussed over the phone. His tone was formal. Too formal. Something about it felt off. First of all, happy 21st birthday, he added, but the words sounded like they were read straight from a script. Let me explain. Initially, your grandfather's trust was set up so that, upon your 21st birthday, full access to the assets would transfer to you. That was indeed the original agreement. Was? The past tense made my heart drop. Mr. Ford didn't answer directly. He flipped through the file and slid a page across the table toward me. However, approximately 9 months ago, this document was officially processed. On it was my mother's familiar signature. What is this? Your mother, who was your legal guardian until you reached adulthood, exercised her authority. She filed to change the trust's beneficiary, from you to your sister, Miss Sophia Baker. For a moment, the words didn't make sense. They echoed again and again in my head. That's impossible. My grandfather left it for me. There must be some mistake. My voice trembled. Mr. Ford's tone remained flat, devoid of sympathy. No, I'm afraid not. Your mother was the lawful guardian and the procedure was completed without issue. Therefore, as of today, all rights related to the trust have officially transferred to Miss Sophia Baker. That is all the information the bank is authorized to provide to you. His words were polite, but final. A formal way of saying, you're no longer part of this matter. $550,000. My dream. My future. All of it, stolen from me without my knowledge, erased by a single sheet of paper and the signature of the mother I had trusted. The air in the room suddenly thinned. I couldn't breathe. Darkness swallowed my vision, and for a moment, I couldn't tell whether I was sitting or standing. I remember leaving the bank and somehow returning to my apartment, though the details are a blur. Each step felt as heavy as dragging lead. Back home, I tore off my suit jacket and opened my laptop. My business plan slipped out of my bag and fell to the floor, but I didn't pick it up. This wasn't the time for despair. Mr. Ford's flat, bureaucratic voice and the image of my mother's signature replayed endlessly in my mind. But not a single tear fell. Before sadness could take hold, a cold, sharp anger began to rise from deep inside me. With trembling fingers, I searched for the city's legal aid office and booked an appointment immediately. The next day, I knocked on the door of a small law firm as instructed. The attorney who greeted me was a sharp-looking middle-aged woman. I explained everything calmly, sticking to the facts. My grandfather's will, my mother's authority as guardian, and the change in beneficiary made without my knowledge. She didn't interrupt, just took quiet, precise notes. When she finally finished reviewing the copies of my documents, she looked up and spoke plainly. Miss Baker, I understand the situation. To be frank, it's extremely difficult. Pointing to a section of the law, she continued. Legally, a guardian's authority over a minor's assets is very powerful. I see no procedural errors in what your mother did. In other words, this transfer is considered legitimate. Legitimate? Yes. To overturn it, you'd need to prove that your mother intentionally deceived you and take her to court. But that would be a messy family lawsuit. Costly, time-consuming, and with very little chance of success. Her words shattered the faint hope I had been clinging to, but I didn't bow my head. I see. Thank you for your time. I thanked her and left the office. Instead of feeling hollow, my mind was already moving on to what I needed to do next. Back at my apartment, I called my mother. After several rings, she finally answered, pretending not to know a thing. Oh, Alyssa. How rare. You calling me? Explain the trust. My blunt words were followed by a brief, heavy silence. Then her tone shifted, hardened, defensive. Oh, that. I did it for your own good. You can't handle that kind of money. Sophia's more practical. She'll make better use of it. Her words made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay calm. That money was what Grandpa left for me. So what? As your mother, I made the best decision for both my daughters. You have no right to complain. She hung up without another word. Plan change. I had no intention of backing down quietly. After the call, silence filled the room, a suffocating, frozen kind of quiet. Beyond anger now, it felt as though my heart itself were turning to ice. I gathered the scattered pages of my business plan and threw them into the trash. That plan had been built on a fragile foundation. Family trust. Never again would I build anything that depended on someone else. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I began sorting through my grandfather's belongings. I couldn't trust anything that had passed through my mother's hands. There was one thing he had given me directly, a small wooden box that smelled faintly of old leather. Inside were his worn drafting tools, faded family photographs, and a few mystery novels he had loved. I wasn't looking for nostalgia. I was desperate, searching for any message, any clue he might have left for me alone. Then, as I lifted one of the thick novels, I felt something hard pressed between its pages. I opened it carefully. Inside was a small envelope. When I tore it open, a single metal key slid out, cold, heavy, engraved with the bank's logo. On the back of the envelope, in my grandfather's familiar handwriting, were these words. Safe deposit box, main branch, basement, it's yours. My heart leapt. A safe deposit box, separate from the trust. Something private, unrecorded, and possibly untouched. Just how much had my grandfather foreseen? The next morning, I stood once again before that same imposing bank. This time, there was no anticipation, no sentimentality, only a cold resolve. This key was my last hope. I handed the key and my ID to the staff member in charge of the vaults. They led me through a massive steel door into a chilled, silent room lined wall to wall with metal boxes. I pulled out the drawer matching my key's number. It was heavier than I expected. My hands trembled as I opened the lid. Inside wasn't paperwork, nor keepsakes. It was filled edge to edge with a dull, unmistakable golden glow. It was gold bullion. Each bar bore stamps guaranteeing international quality. On top of the stack of bars lay a folded note and a few documents. The paperwork proved in official terms that this safe deposit box and everything inside it were registered in my name alone, Alyssa Baker. The note contained one last message from my grandfather. For when you're truly in need, I trust your judgment. The moment I read those words, the tears that hadn't fallen for a day came all at once and streamed down my cheeks. This wasn't just money. It was my grandfather's trust, his vote of confidence, and a weapon to carve out my future. I wiped my face and gripped one of the gold bars hard. The cold, heavy weight told me one thing. The fight was not over. After leaving the vault room, I went straight to the library. I pulled out my phone and typed keywords into the search engine. How to sell gold bullion, high-value buyers, taxes, one after another. I couldn't act on impulse. To make the most of the chance my grandfather had left me, I needed a cool plan and quick execution. I still didn't know the total value of the bullion exactly, but from the amount I'd seen, it was clear that it equaled, or even exceeded, the trust fund. If I moved it all at once, my parents would inevitably find out. So I had to convert everything to cash and transfer it to a brand new bank account, one no one knew about, before they realized. After hours of research, I narrowed the list to 3 precious metals buyers with the best reputations for reliability and strict confidentiality. The next morning, my actions began. I wrapped a few bars at a time in towels so the weight wouldn't be obvious and placed them in a large tote bag. Then, playing the part of a college student, I visited a different dealer each day. Found these while sorting through my grandfather's things, I told each one. To avoid suspicion, I sold only 2 or 3 bars at a time. Each buyer tested the bars and offered a price based on the day's international rate. When I agreed, they paid, either in cash or by bank transfer. I always chose to transfer, but the receiving account was a new online bank account I'd opened for this plan, one I hadn't told my parents or anyone about. Every evening back at my apartment, I checked the balance on my laptop and watched the numbers climb. With each increase, I felt my future sliding back into my hands. It was a meticulous, lonely process, like assembling a puzzle piece by piece. I couldn't tell anyone. Not Sophia, not my friends. This was a battle I had to win alone. It took 2 weeks to empty the safe deposit box. On the night the final bar was sold and all transfers had cleared, I stared at the online bank's balance screen. The figure shown exceeded my expectations by a little. I immediately split most of the funds into several fixed deposits and low-risk financial products within the same online bank. That way, even if someone discovered the account, the money wouldn't be easily withdrawn. When I finished, dawn was already lightening the sky. Everything was ready. Now I just had to wait for the storm to break. 1 month later, on a morning when I sat at my desk sipping coffee and watching my triple monitors, the moment finally came. My phone flashed, a message from my mother. All the savings are gone. What is this? I glanced at it and slowly withdrew my hands from the keyboard. Apparently, my mother had planned to use the trust, now in Sophia's name, for investments. But because the trust's terms required funds be used for educational purposes, they couldn't be counted on for her intended investments. Panicked, she had apparently combed through Grandpa's belongings and discovered the safe deposit box, only to realize too late that I had already finished with it. That was my theory based on her frantic tone. It seemed plausible. I let the message sit unread for a few minutes. Then my phone logged another missed call from my father, angry as always, and another concerned text from Sophia. Family line notifications kept exploding. I took a deep breath, opened only my mother's message, and typed a short reply. I disposed of what was in my name. It's none of your concern. I hit send, no emoji, no excuses, no apologies, just the cold fact. Within a minute, my mother called. I pressed decline without hesitation. Then my father called. I decided I couldn't keep dodging them, so I hit answer once, ready for a final confrontation. His shouting hit me immediately. "What do you think you're doing? That money belonged to the family. Return it now or I'll sue you." I waited for him to take a breath, then spoke. Quietly, but clearly. "Sue me? That's a funny joke. I've already consulted my lawyer. The gold bullion is legally mine. Don't ever call me again." With that, I hung up before he could reply and immediately blocked his number. I already knew what he would say. They'd accuse me, insult me, and in the end, wrap it all up in the same words. "It's for the family," as they tried to take everything from me again. Not this time. I powered off my phone completely and tucked it deep inside my desk drawer. I didn't need any more noise. What I needed was silence, to focus on what came next. The money I'd gained from selling the gold wasn't the goal. It was the seed, the capital that would finally put me at the starting line. Just as my grandfather had believed in me, I had to use this money wisely. I started spending hours at a large bookstore nearby, buying every book I could find about investing. At first, I was overwhelmed by the flood of unfamiliar terms. It was like trying to decipher a foreign language made of spells. I filled notebooks with words and their meanings, one by one. At night, I devoured free university lectures on economics online. During the day, I sat in front of my triple monitors, following real-time market data and comparing it against what I had learned. I began small, with demo trades using minimal amounts. For the first month, my balance shrank at an alarming pace. Frustrated, I nearly slammed my keyboard more than once, but every time I remembered my grandfather's words. Effort is the only thing that matters. I swallowed my frustration and pressed on. Every mistake was recorded in detail. I analyzed them objectively and began building a set of rules, one at a time, to make sure I'd never repeat them. After 6 months of trial and error and demo trading, I imposed a strict condition on myself. I won't touch real money until I've had 3 consecutive profitable months. It took 8 months from the day I began studying, but I finally achieved it. With cautious confidence, I invested a small portion of my portfolio into several IT sector stocks I had thoroughly analyzed myself. The feeling of putting my real money into the market for the first time was raw and electric, completely different from a demo. The turning point came 3 months later. A small software company announced a groundbreaking new technology. While most investors hesitated, I trusted my analysis and concentrated most of my funds into that one company. It was a gamble, but not a reckless one. It was a calculated risk, backed by exhaustive research. A month later, when a major tech corporation announced a partnership with that same software company, its stock price tripled in a single day. My assets skyrocketed overnight. It was the moment all those quiet, relentless days of study and analysis finally bore fruit. From that point on, my investments began to follow a stable upward path. By the end of the first year, my net worth had grown by more than 50% beyond the value of the gold I had sold. With financial independence came a new kind of calm, a sense of freedom I had never known. And that's when an old idea resurfaced, the business plan I once wrote for Pocket Tutor. I decided to start small, with a blog and a series of intimate online workshops. I wrote articles explaining the basics of stock investing without jargon, mixing in my own failures and lessons. After about 3 months, people began sharing them on social media. Then I announced weekend online workshops for my readers. The participation fee was minimal, low enough that even students could afford it. It was a small group, limited to 10 people, and yet the session filled up within a day. After each workshop, I received messages of gratitude from participants. The joy I felt was different from the thrill of financial gain. It was deeper, purer. Earning money wasn't the only form of independence. Using my knowledge and experience to help others, that, I realized, might be the truest kind of success. As the blog and workshops gained momentum, my days filled with a new sense of purpose and peace. Then, one quiet afternoon, the doorbell rang. When I checked the monitor, standing there was someone I hadn't seen in over a year, my sister Sophia. For a moment, I hesitated to open the door, but the expression on her face wasn't the confident one I remembered. She looked frightened, troubled. I quietly opened the door. "It's been a while, Alyssa." "Sophia, what do you want?" At my cold tone, she flinched. Up close, I saw that she'd lost weight. The expensive designer clothes she used to flaunt were gone. I need to talk to you, just for a little while. Can you spare some time? Without a word, I led her into the apartment. Sophia's eyes widened as she took in the stacks of economics books piled in the corner and the charts of corporate analyses covering the wall. Wow, did you do all this yourself? Yes. You came here for a reason, didn't you? At my prompt, she sat on the edge of the sofa, head lowered, and began to speak haltingly. About the trust fund. I'm sorry. The words caught me off guard. They were simple but genuine. When I found out Mom and Dad changed the name from yours to mine without telling you, I was happy. I didn't even think about it. I just thought it meant they cared about me more. I thought that was how it was supposed to be. From what she told me, our parents had used the trust fund, now under Sophia's name, to make high-risk investments. They'd failed. And when they discovered that the gold bullion they'd planned to rely on was gone, the Baker family's finances collapsed almost overnight. Dad's business isn't doing well anymore. They don't have the money to spoil me like before. So I started working part-time, but I've never done anything on my own before, and it's not going well. She continued, holding back her tears. Then a friend showed me your blog, The Independent Road. I didn't believe it at first, but when I read it, there you were. Someone I didn't even recognize. You'd worked so hard, built something real with your own hands. It was incredible. Sophia lifted her head and looked straight at me. Her eyes no longer held the entitlement or vanity I used to see. I was wrong. I spent my whole life doing whatever they told me, never thinking for myself, but I don't want that anymore. I want to live on my own terms. So please, let me be your student. I found myself speechless at the sight of my sister pleading. The ice that had been lodged in my heart for over a year slowly began to melt. After a long silence, I stood, walked to the kitchen, and poured 2 cups of coffee. I set one quietly in front of her. Do you understand what it means to be my student? I asked. She nodded firmly. It's not an easy path. No one will save you, and you alone are responsible for every choice. That's the first thing I teach in my workshops. I understand, but I still want to do it. Her eyes told me her resolve was real. I opened my desk drawer, took out a single $100 bill, and placed it on the table. This is your first assignment. Sophia looked at the bill, puzzled. Use that $100. Invest it in something of your own choosing. Stocks, a book, something that helps you grow. In 1 month, I want you to present the results and tell me why you chose that investment. What if I fail? What you learn from failure is what matters most. The answers aren't given to you. You find them yourself. That was the beginning of our new relationship. After that day, Sophia truly became my student. She took notes more diligently than anyone, studied the market tirelessly. She still made plenty of mistakes, but her face now shone with a vitality I had never seen before. We weren't the kind of sisters who went to cafes together and laughed over small talk, but we had something else, a new bond born from shared purpose. We debated market trends, exchanged analysis reports, and grew side by side. Since then, I haven't spoken to our parents once. According to Sophia, our father's business collapsed completely. He's now working any job he can find, desperate to recover from his failed investments. As for our mother, once obsessed with appearances and luxury brands, she can no longer afford that life. Out of necessity, she works part-time now, living quietly with him. As for me, I simply keep walking my own path, one step at a time.